Give me the countdown. Okay. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pebble, a startup podcast that is specially built around startups in deep tech and entrepreneurs who are making the news. I'm your host, Vishal Krishna. Today, I have with me the founders of Sensio. The founders are Mohan Prabhakar, Venkatesh Vadde, and Kenneth Joel. They are a deep tech company that makes wearables for health and wellness. The startup helps you monitor your blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate, blood oxygenation, and temperature. And all this is done with their wearable. Guys, how are you? Venkatesh, Mohan, Kenneth?
Hi. Doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having us here.
Thanks for having us.
I'm excited as much as you because, when you look at healthcare, it's not very proactive. It's almost a situation where you react to the problems that you have. And I have seen, ladies and gentlemen, their device, and it's phenomenal. It allows you to take care of yourself. More so, it allows you to take care of your parents. It cuts across generations. I'll perhaps begin with how Venkatesh founded this company along with Mohan and Kenneth. What is the tipping point for you, Venkatesh? How did this happen? You were in IIT, you were in Qualcomm, you went abroad, did a PhD, right?
Yes.
You've been and then you came to PES, and yes, he's from PES, guys, and people in PES should be feeling proud. How did this moment of entrepreneurship happen for you?
Yeah, Vishal, it's been quite a journey. Like you said, I was in the industry, and I was for about 10 years in the industry. My last stint being in a startup. And then I really was looking for freedom and wanted to work on interesting problems. And that got me to PES because academia, right? It's always a place where you can explore ideas. Around 2018, I'd already logged in 10 years. And I was looking for a change. And that was the time when, I met Kenneth and Mohan. And we thought, let's do something interesting, maybe do a startup. And we had some interesting conversations on campus. One thing led to the other, and soon we had Sensio. Vishal, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot. Pardon me. Mohan, Kenneth, I want you to come in now, and I want you to tell me about what pronged you to Venkatesh. What took you to Venkatesh? I mean, it's not always that we find students go to a professor and discuss these things, right? How did that happen with you guys?
Can you go first?
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So, oddly enough, I think we were never taught by him directly. We were always spending a lot of time together, but we were never lucky enough to take one of his classes because we were in a different department. We were in the Triple department, whereas I was in EC most of the time. But we had the good fortune of working on a lot of interesting projects during our stay at PES, and through those projects we got to interact a lot. And over the years, I guess we developed a relationship. Just talking about interesting problems and how we can solve them with technology. And it really was that eventually led to us being confident enough to want to start a company together.
Okay. I want to hear your story, Mohan. Please go for it.
So actually, Kenny and I are classmates, and when we got together, we started thinking, let's do some projects together. And so for about 2 or 3 years, we did a lot of projects together, and eventually we started going to professors and asking them to projects, and that's how we ended up meeting Venkatesh as well. And a lot of interesting conversations happened, and eventually Sensio came into existence.
Okay, the three of you get together. Venkatesh, was the product similar to what you discussed back in 2018? A lot of iterations. Can you tell us about some of the things that led you to, track blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate, blood oxygenation, all of them at the same time? People, I mean, you know what's happening in the market. There's so many wearables out there, and everybody would be claiming to do this, but they're not medical grade.
Yeah, I think it is. It's really we've had a little meandering journey that's brought us to where we are today. But when we started out, we told ourselves, what is it that we want to do? What problem do we want to solve? And we looked a little outside and then a little inward. When we looked at our interests, we're all big on sensors. We really love to work with physics, mathematics, sensing, signals, all of that good stuff. So we thought, what can we do with this? When we look outward, we thought, what kind of problem do we want to solve? We could work in education, we could work in health, or we could work in nutrition. And then, after some discussions and back and forth, we thought it makes sense for us to do something in health with sensors. And there is a little bit of history behind that also. Since 2015, I was dabbling in projects at PES that involved sensors and some very interesting modalities. And these guys were winning hackathons. So ultimately, it converged for us to sensors for health. And and our journey today is basically bringing us to develop devices that bring our strengths in sensors, in signals, in the form of wearables for both health and wellness. So I think when we talk about health and wellness, then automatically we talk about all these parameters, these vitals. And with the convergence of technology, it's today possible to build a device that can really monitor all these vitals, and that's it. And we were after them one after the other, and today we really can monitor all of those vitals. That's how I see it, Vishal.
I'm not going to reveal the science. I've read through the papers that you guys have sent me. It's interesting, but just to make it, for you engineers watching this, okay, they use a method which is closer to Newton's third law of motion. Okay, let me not reveal to you guys. You have to go read those papers. How deep tech does this get? When we talk about such companies in India, they think Indians can never build this. They think Indians can build software, but not great hardware. Can you talk about this a bit, please?
Sure. I think that's something that's very close to our hearts also. Right out, when we said, let's do something creative and interesting and build a company, we definitely were sure that we don't want to do just software. And the irony here is that no matter what you do software, right? But for us, it was very clear, no IT, none of the usual, track. Our interests naturally gravitate towards hardware. We just like to see things work, build things, and make them see them work. That, and I would also say a convergence of technology, a lot of capability in the industry today makes it possible. This would have been audacious maybe 10 years back or a little earlier, but today it's all possible, and you see some of that action in the wearables industry. So I think we were playing to our own strengths, our own interests, and we definitely wanted to be different. Of course, we were certainly not out to just do another doable thing. We wanted to. I definitely was very particular that try something that others cannot easily do, if not do. Right? There will be others, of course. The world is full of smart guys, but we wanted to try something and set the bar and do something that's not easy. As to how deep tech it is, I think it's fair to say that we are using some real cutting edge tools and technologies in what we do. But I would calibrate that by saying we're doing what our ecosystem permits us to do, right? And
why do you say that? What do you mean by what? Are you limited by the ecosystem that you're at today?
Oh, very much, Vishal. We would be lying if we didn't say that. Our ecosystem in hardware is just about coming up. We have made huge strides in software. Right, we have now about 4 decades of some software, looking back that we can do, and we are a force to reckon with in software, but not in hardware. I mean, in semiconductors, we really go into it. India barely makes any semiconductors, right? And we as builders of these devices know that we're really importing components and building up systems from there. But there's a lot of action there that's yet to happen, and as you might be following, the semiconductor space is opening up even in India. It's going to take time, but yeah.
Okay, let's talk about all the problems at hand today. I mean, one is great founding team, Kenneth and Mohan, champion you, young, I mean, they understand the current ecosystem. When the three of you got together, what are the initial challenges that you faced in piecing this product out? You know, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I've seen their product. It's like a necklace around you, and they're trying to make it even better. And it's designed by one of the world's leading designers also. We're going to talk about that in a bit. What are the initial problems? Was it manufacturing? You mentioned semiconductor. Was it sourcing? And also, we're in the middle of COVID by the time you guys had the product in a phase, right? Well, phase 1 or phase 2 of testing. What are some of the challenges of the supply chain that you had to handle? Because very soon you'd be going commercial, and it's a robust product now. So talk about those problems in supply chain that hurt you.
Well, I would say that the supply chain is it's not too bad for people like us in Bangalore, but it's all very much tied to the West, right? A lot of the supplies coming from the West. Some of that has hurt us more in the second half of the COVID phase. We talk of the semiconductor shortage lately very much. So that has meant that availability of some critical parts are delayed or just not. We're looking at long lead times. So we have had to definitely slow down our progress due to those supply chain constraints, largely due to COVID, I would say. I don't know if Kenny and Mohan would like to qualify that a little further.
I think they should. Boys, you can't be quiet. A lot of students would be watching this and they'd be wanting to be inspired by you to go start up and build something that you guys have done. Go for it, Kenneth, Mohan.
Yeah, sure. I think definitely being a hardware startup, we do have a lot more challenges. I think one word we keep discussing a lot these days is the word lead time. It's not like, you can compile some code and it's ready an hour later. You really have to wait for components to move around, for PCB fabrication to happen. There's a lot of pipelining that needs to be done to actually have things roll out in time. Another, I think, learning we had quite strongly over the last 3 years is that we, especially being in this ecosystem, shouldn't try to build everything ourselves. We shouldn't try to do things from scratch. We should try to find the right partners, try to leverage what's already existing in the ecosystem, and not do things too much from scratch. And that helped really accelerate a lot of things that we would have otherwise taken very long to achieve. And just coming back to your previous point on why we are so crazy about hardware, Vishal, I think we call ourselves Sensio-AI sometimes, and it's funny that a hardware startup is calling themselves AI. And an important quote that comes to mind when I think about AI startups is that in the .com bubble era, you had a lot of companies just taking their company name, adding .com, and calling themselves a web company, an internet company. And these days you have a lot of companies, just taking their existing systems, adding a neural network and calling themselves an AI company. But you really don't become an AI company until you have a platform that, behaves as a proprietary data set. So the ability to create a platform that can give you proprietary data really becomes a moat for a company. So if you have a proprietary hardware platform, then you also have proprietary data, and hence you have proprietary algorithms, and really that builds a lot more stronger, moat for a tech company. So that's really one of the reasons why we're so bonkers about hardware. But
I'm glad you brought in. I mean, I think hardware as a hardware company in India, I think stronger moats are really important. And let me ask you a question. See, I mean, the variations of the heart, right? That you capture. It captures the variations in the heart, the waves, right, Venkatesh?
Yes,
Mohan? And the variations are different for different age groups, right? And that's the level of detail that you can get into, correct?
Yes,
right?
yes.
I want you to talk about. Go on, Mohan. Go on, Mohan.
Not just groups, it's even different for people with different conditions. So we can get into those details as well.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So this product is built not just for the old, but also for the young in many ways. It's also an aspirational product. going back to my question on why do we have to be proactive and not reactive for healthcare, right? Venkatesh, Mohan, you want to take this forward?
Yeah, I mean, see, we have seen lately instances of, we had the Puneet Rajkumar death incidents. And then we have seen a lot of talk about long COVID and what it does to, patients who are acutely affected by that. But all in all, the value of data in medical diagnosis or just in, awareness of health can't be understated, right? Or overstated. Basically, there is a lot of value in data collected using proprietary platforms, like Kenny was saying, over a period of time and specific to individuals. I mean, how much data do we have on the Indian race? So to say, we are living off standards and protocols designed for the West, right? That have come from Western cohorts, Western populations. So there is a goldmine of data that's waiting to be unearthed, specific to the Indian population, right? And then within India, we have variations, right? We have the North, we have the East, we have the various subdivisions and subsects. So there's so much to be known, and the value of data longitudinally collected, right, over a period of time, and then specifically categorized by a condition or a demographic. I think there's a lot that can be done there. And we definitely are talking about bringing all of that to the fore with the devices of Sensio. So yeah, proactive health, you said, no, it's a lot of that is possible only with the data. And we may be talking about data just collected over a week's time, sometimes 2 weeks. Hopefully we can do it with shorter amounts of time, but the time dimension really can, I think, unravel a lot here for us.
Yeah.
When the user comes into buying this device is it a subscription basis, or is it I just buy the product and then the data gets captured as an edge device? I wear it all the time, including sleep, travel, and then that data is shared with care providers. Is that the ecosystem you're building with the hardware?
So it depends a little whether it's a consumer grade or whether it is actually medtech and medical grade, because we are looking at both spaces. If it's consumer grade, then it's mostly for the consumption of the wearer of the device and then some, their immediate family. Take geriatric, for example. It's a great case where middle-aged and young people would like to keep an eye on their elder parents, the senior citizens. And often this is a need when they live in different geographies. So in that case, we're talking a consumer grade device. It could be medical grade also, but the use case is that family shares the data and they get to know the state of health of their family member. And that's a use case where I think the user can wear it all the time and for as long as they want, right? So it's you want to keep an eye on your mother for as long as you can, and as long as the device is available and the requirement needs you to. When it's a medical grade device and the use case, we have certain use cases there where we think that they'll rent the device maybe, or maybe they will feel compelled to purchase the device because they want it all the time. So, but then useful decisions can be taken based on the data collected over 1 to 2 weeks at a time is what we think at Sensio.
I would just like to
go on.
So, I mean, rather than just having large amounts of data, it is also very important to have data collected at different points in time, when you're sleeping or when you're having huge amounts of activity. So that contextual data will really help improve the healthcare system much better than just having large amounts of data. So from the very beginning, that's why we have been concentrating on 24/7 monitoring and not just on-demand monitoring.
Yeah, it's most of us consumers get lost in the fact that there are these fancy devices, not realizing that they don't add any medical value to my life outcome, right? And it's true. And Venkatesh, you made such a valid point, and both of you, Kenneth, Mohan, I mean, if you look at the data sets, if you're building on an open source, most of the data on healthcare is from America or Europe. There is no Indian data set for healthcare. It is so strange, right? It does not look into Indian population sets. as complex as it is, right?
Correct.
You must be very happy that the government's now going to talk about a health stack, right? And that's something that you can plug on to also in the future.
Yes. I think there's a little forward thinking definitely happening there. I mean, India is definitely bringing up a lot of data infrastructure. We have seen very good success with Aadhaar and on the fintech space, UPI and stuff. So we're also now talking about the health stack. So yeah, I think some of that can very collaboratively tie into startups and the data they collect. But there's a lot yet. I would reiterate that very less data is available that's specific to our geography, specific to our ethnicity, because really people are different. Our diet is different, right? Our so many things are different. So we need data on ourselves, and but there is just so much data waiting to be tapped. We are a very populous country, and data of every color and hue can come here. So yeah.
What stage is the product at, Kenneth? Mohan, if you want to tell me about where are we in terms of consumers using it as a private beta, or people saying that I want to pre-order it. How far away are we from that journey? Venkatesh, Mohan, Kenneth, who wants to go for this?
I'll start off. I'll say that we are still some time away from that, at least 6 to 8 months, mainly because of this whole semiconductor shortage. And also, manufacturing and assembling PCBs at this wearable form factor is really challenging. So we are trying to work through those challenges, and hopefully we'll be there in at least another 6 to 8 months.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. So 6 months down the line, we'd have the product ready. But have you done any private testing within your own employees, maybe, or have you been trying it out on a set of patients or anything of that sort, Venkatesh?
So we have tested our sensors. In the past, we have done clinical trials as well. And we are also now waiting to do further trials with the devices at scale. But we have definitely been testing our sensors for their signals and the validity of them and the quality, etc. So that's definitely ongoing. And yeah.
So hardware devices in India also have to go through clinical, because you speak about global, right? It's FDA testing also, right? You need to go through clinical trials here too. Is that a stage 1, 2, 3, 4? What stage would you be in now?
Yeah, so there is for medtech products where you do need certification and things like that from CDSCO. That's the organization in India that gives these certificates. They also classify devices based on how invasive they are, just like the FDA does. And it can take anything between 6 to 12 months to get those certifications. That's right. And there are some standards laid out by the BIS, but it's the CDSCO which really regulates that industry.
But you're gunning for the FDA approval, perhaps. Is that something that you want? Because
I think we have to look at, eventually we have to look at CE mark, we have to look at FDA. All in sequence, but being in the Indian geography, I think first we'd be looking at getting certified here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the partnership would happen with the consumers directly, or would you sell to consumers directly, or do you go to hospitals and do this? Is it a B2B, B2C kind of business model?
So basically, if it's a medtech product, I think it's imperative that we have the doctor in the loop, right? And because we need a doctor to recommend that and say that put on this device, wear it. Let's get this much data, and that'll help me really understand your condition better. So all of that means it has to be like a B2B play with hospitals and doctors in the loop. But if it's a consumer-facing device, I don't think we need that. So that will be really direct to consumer.
Okay.
So that's our plan.
Shall we take some audience questions? That's an interesting. There are about 7-8 questions that have cropped up. Okay. This is from Arun, who says, "What does the wearable alert the user?" I'll rephrase that question. Does it alert the user if there are abnormalities in the various variables that you mentioned? Is it an alert kind of a device? What is it?
Yeah, I'll let Kenny take that question.
Yeah, so Vishal, this is really a use case specific scenario, right? So if it's something like sleep monitoring, where you want to see if there are certain trends in vitals during sleep that could be indicative of cardiovascular risk. For example, your blood pressure is not dropping at night as you would expect it to, then that's indicative of an issue. Then we wouldn't be raising alerts from that. It's more like a report that's given at the end of the day or an end of the week. Whereas if it's, a remote patient monitoring scenario where the chest patch device of ours can easily be deployed, in that case, then alerts become important. So really, we'll have to look at this, on a case-by-case basis and answer that question.
Okay. I knew this was a question that's going to come, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You three can answer it the way you want. One of the startups in your domain, I'm not going to name the startup, they have raised money. And what is the kind of technology that they use? And what is how different is Sensio from them? This is a question from Srini.
Well, there are definitely other, companies out there doing and addressing similar issues, building products for similar spaces. I'd say one of the strengths of Sensio is that we use very non-obtrusive contact sensors. We get some of the best signals. These are medical grade. So we actually, can have algorithms riding on signals of those, that quality. And it's multimodal. So given the multiple modalities we use, we believe that our signals and our inferences can really set us apart.
Okay, the next question is from Siddhi. This is an interesting question, but it's a generic question. You're engineers. Why enter the field of medicine, right? And knowing the fact that Indian healthcare is hard to crack, how are you going to solve it?
That's an interesting question, and I think that's exactly where the opportunity lies. If people like Siddhi and her friends just walk into a hospital, you will. She's probably too young to have any real issues, and that's it. Great thing. But when we take a walk around a hospital, we realize that the place is loaded with engineering gear and equipment, right? Stuff that runs on automation, that runs on algorithms, runs on signals and sensors of various kinds. In fact, the doctors don't build those things, right? Doctors are users of those, and they will bring their medical science and judgment to the signals and data that these engineered devices are providing them. So there is this very tight collaboration and partnership that's required between medical doctors and engineers. And I think they are ever grateful to us, and we can't do away with them. We need the doctors to finally pronounce the judgment on what's going on inside the patient's or subject's physiological system. So I think that's what we are looking at. We are doing nothing curative here. We are not calling the medical decision here. All we are saying is we are providers of confidential, high quality data, right? Built using the best components in the world, the best sensors in the world. And that's what we stand for. And I think that's good for everybody.
And that's a wonderful point, that data sovereignty is going to be key here. And I'm sure the government would want the data of Indians to stay in India. I think that's a great point that you make, that it's also secure and also medical grade. So if you guys really launch there, right? A lot of the people sitting out in America with their mothers here, fathers here, I'm sure this product's really going to do great. And also for the younger ones, you mentioned the Puneet incident, right? It's a very sad, strange thing that happened out of a sudden. And I'm sure the product's for the youngsters too. There's the next question I'll ask, and you can relate to that. And Venkatesh Mohan, you have to answer this question, Kenneth also. This person, Rumesh, and he says, an Apple Watch provides all these features that you offer, plus many other features. How different would a Sensio wearable be to an Apple Watch? I would say a considerable and significant difference. Firstly, again, I'm going back, ladies and gentlemen, saying it is medical grade. And we should perhaps touch on that subject and drive home the message, guys. Who's going to take this?
I think the young guys should take this first. And if anything else comes to my mind, I'll pad it later.
Go on, Kenneth.
Okay, cool. So, the Apple Watch definitely is an interesting product. And I'm sure that down the line, Apple will also contribute to health in a much richer way than it is right now. Right. And there is a broader answer to this question, that consumer grade technology and medical grade technology is converging. A lot of the platforms that you see used in consumer grade devices are quite similar to the ones used in medical grade devices. It's just that the priority of these manufacturers is not that particular consumer segment, right? They're not so concerned about accuracy, nor are they concerned about getting the necessary certifications to have this device used in a caregiving setting. So really, it's the prioritization that's going to be a difference in the case of these two technologies. Another thing I want to mention, this broad blanket statement about smartwatches in general, is that the wrist is probably the worst site to get any biomedical data of meaning. You want to be at the chest if you want to get some really good cardiorespiratory insights, or you want to be, if you're relying heavily on an optical modality, you want to be closer to the palm, you want to be in the form of a ring or something like that. The wrist is probably the worst site to make these kind of very insightful measurements, not the most reliable and repeatable, but it's the most common, right? Everybody is used to wearing a smartwatch, and which is why a lot of these manufacturers have chosen that form factor. But for us, keeping high quality, high accuracy data in mind, we have opted for different form factors that prioritize these instead.
Okay, you cannot trivialize science to an Apple Watch. I can say that for a fact. And these guys are a science company. That's why I keep saying they're a deep tech company out of university. They're from PS University, of course. The next question is from Neha. It's the last question before we come to the closing. Go on, Mohan. Go on. I'm glad you spoke. Go on.
Along with being more accurate by being on the chest or the finger, it will be more comfortable too, right? I mean, a lot of people find it hard to sleep with smartwatches on. So that way, the aspect of 24/7 monitoring is not really there. Whereas with both of our wearables, be it the smart ring or the chest strap, it will be much more comfortable and non-obtrusive, especially while sleeping.
Okay, I'm glad you said it's non-obtrusive also. Obviously, you've got some brilliant advisors. Michael Foley is the designer, Venkatesh?
That's true. He's our chief designer, Foley and his team. Yeah.
And how did you win him over quickly?
Oh, I was at a Wilgrow conference and a Wilgrow Unconvention event, and I saw Michael, in a little discussion there, panel discussion. After that I walked up to him and I said, Michael, would love to have you as our designer, and we had several conversations, and right. So Michael is a core partner. I would call him a partner as well as a design advisor. We work closely with Team Foley.
Okay, quickly talk about VCs and why they have to invest with you. I don't want to delve into the details of why they've not invested, but why should they champion you? I would say that because India's deep tech is going to be coming of age this decade. And I think go for it. Like I said, there's no data sets for Indians. Here is Sensio offering that to you.
Well, Kenny, you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Vishal, it's a high risk space, right, that we're in. It's not the quick wins that you would see in other sectors. And definitely we not only need capital, but we need capital that aligns with our vision. We need somebody who thinks like us and really believes in the causes that we believe in to invest. So I think we've been patient in that way, to wait for the right minds to work with, because it's a lot of times it's more about capital. You don't want a very large deviation from what you believe in. And really our pitch to VCs would be that this is the future of healthcare, right? All this while we've been taking pictures of people's health. It's the one hospital visit, it's the one doctor checkup, it's the one-off hospital full body checkup. But we're talking about continuous vitals, we're talking about 24/7 monitoring, we're talking about videos of health information rather than just pictures. Okay. And it's really that this kind of videos is going to unlock new use cases. So there may be use cases for the data that we're creating that we haven't even imagined. And definitely it would take all the help we can to get to that future.
Okay, if there are more questions, guys, ask. I can continue the show. But my one final question to you is: where is this heading? What is the future for you the next 18 months? and what's going to happen in these 18 months for you?
I think we are looking at least one product launch in that time horizon. And if the semiconductor shortage and the Russia-Ukraine skirmish, all blesses us, then we should be on track to do that. We're also looking at some very exciting product development in the medtech space. A lot of it is, ready, but there is also some work to be done. We have some clinical trials to do. So we're looking at all of that exciting possibilities. And you mentioned VCs. Yes, we will be looking at raising some substantial dollars to fund, the journey for the next 18 to 24 months. We have enough for now, but we will be soon there to be talking to investors. And yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Sensio, that's Mohan, Venkatesh, and Kenneth. I'm happy to have them on Pebble. I'll get them back for more. Keep asking questions. We'll get them answered on YouTube, and we'll also post it on LinkedIn. Have a great time, gentlemen. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.